Welcome to Tattoo Tabletop. My name is James, and today we are talking about the Ossiarch Bonereapers. As of time of recording, the book has leaked, so it has made its way out into the internet, and the points have been posted by Warhammer community. So there's plenty of places that are going through the full reviews. I'm just going to give you the highs, the lows, and the in-betweens, and just kind of allow you to make your decision for yourself. I will plan on having this out the Friday before it comes out. I plan on picking up a good amount myself just because I love the new models. But let's dive into it, shall we? Let's start with the points. So this was aggressive. So at the time, I didn't see the book or any of the abilities or anything like that. I just saw the points. So just to kind of go over some of the coverage here, Xantos went up to 220. Arcan went up 50 points to 440. Catacross actually went down to 500 points. We'll talk more about that as well. Liege Cavalis went up 20. Bone Shaper went up 40, plus 60 for the Harvester. Minus 50 for the Death Riders, minus 20 for Nagash. So I think the increases have just aggressively outweighed the decreases. Fortunately, the book is launching with none of the artifacts or formations or any of that costing points, which if those formations cost points, I would give up because we're going to talk about that as well. So a lot of the things that got points increases got massive point increases. Tragic Cohort went down 50 points, which they should. Yeah, we'll talk about it. So let's just dive into the book. And now a quick word from today's sponsor.
Today's video is sponsored by The Forge for all your hobby nerd needs. Whether it's Warhammer 40k, Age of Sigmar, Marvel Crisis Protocol, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Lorcana, and a plethora of board games, The Forge has what you need. The Forge has been my go-to shop, and the inventory has only grown. If there's something you don't see on the shelves, fill out a product request form on their website. Thank you to The Forge for sponsoring this video.
Alright, so here we are. We're looking at the full thing here. Let's go ahead. Oh, there we go. Oh, no. Okay, so how did things change? So we saw a little bit of it. It teased in the Warcom articles. The Relentless Discipline points is now you pick a hero, and the hero generates however many Relentless Discipline points. So, for example, Catacross being the big one, he generates 10 Relentless Discipline points, unless he is bracketed, in which case his combat ability doesn't go down, but he only generates 4. So now you're just picking a hero at the beginning of the battle round. You're generating that many Relentless Discipline points, and you can use them for these things. One being Remorseless March, which gives you a 3 inches extra additional movement, but you cannot run. Very specific call out there. You have Impassive Retreat, which allows you to retreat in charge. You still take the mortals, which is very important to note because I don't think it doesn't mention that in there, but I think some people might just overlook that, like, oh, this gives me the ability to retreat in charge. Yeah, but you still take the mortals, so you're still going to get hurt. The shooting phase, shooting everything, you can subtract 1 from ward rolls for that, so that's good. +1 to wound in fighting. And then, of course, a 5-up ward when your opponent attacks. The nice part is these are reactions. So your shooting phase obviously the shooting has to be done in your, you declare a shoot ability. And once per turn, so actually it looks like you can declare this during covering fire. So that actually is a big element there. Otherwise, these 2 are in your movement phase, and these 2 are reactions, which is nice because that means they can be used. You just have to pretty much look at the battlefield and determine, okay, do I want this to wound better, or do I want to keep it more defensive and kind of play the game from there? Your formations, this is actually the biggest disappointment for me. These formations just feel not good. You have the Border Guards, which gives your units anti-charge +1 rend if they're wholly within neutral territory or wholly within 6 both. And so you have to rush into the middle, which if you're using more tech or anything like that, you're slow. So could work for some faster army, but because it just has Bonereapers, but I think that's not great. It's not great. The other one, you pick an enemy unit to be a target, and on the 3+, they have a control score 1. Could be a good way of stealing objectives. You still have to roll for it, so not great there. There's a chance that your army ability just doesn't happen. And it's only in your hero phase. Ruthless Legion, which is the one that I'm probably going to play the most, still a 3-up, but your units' weapons get, including companion weapons, get crit 2 hits. Crit 2 hits left a lot of this book. There's only a few units that have it now, including Catacross and Morghast Archive and stuff like that, but otherwise a lot of units have lost it, and you feel it. You feel it pretty quickly. The only other one, Remorseless Conquerors, anytime you use a run, you automatically get a 4. So helps your movement a little bit, and at least this way it's taking effect all the time. If they tried to charge points for any of these formations, that would be wildly incorrect, because these are just, they're not great. They're really not great. Coming from the other ones we had before, just a lot better. This one was brutal. We'll just go over some of the heroic traits and stuff here real quick, just to kind of give you a rough idea. But you have Manufactured Mind, which allows you, when you're generating your RDP points, you can pick someone that's dead, or you pick a hero that's dead. So if you lose your Leech Cavalos, you're like your bigger RDP generator, as long as that model that you have this heroic trait on is still alive. I believe that's how you can use the dead one. I think it's got to be on a model that is still alive, at least the way that I read it. Immaculate Defender. Ignore the first damage point to friendly Ossiarch Bonereaper infantry units while they're wholly within 12. Not terrible, not great, but not mid. It's just mid. Pick an enemy unit in combat with non-hero and potentially do some mortals. Great. You have to survive, though. And it's after you declare the fight ability. So you do a fight ability, and then it's the bad D3, so you have to roll a 2-up in order to do the mortals. So you might just do nothing. So, cool. Artifacts, Shard of Necros. This one actually is probably the best one. It's a passive. As long as you didn't charge, unmodified hit rolls of 1 through 4 don't hit. So you have to hit on a 5 or 6. That absolutely helps with durability on whatever hero you put this on, which is great. This one actually, Amulet of Gnosis, actually seems like not a terrible idea, because no mortal damage inflicted on a friendly Ossiarch Bonereaper unit that uses the Retreat ability. So I already have a couple ideas for this. I think I'm going to put this on the Leech Cavalos on Chariot, because they do have an ability to do mortals as they charge in. So they charge in, do mortals, and then I believe the Leech Cavalos gives them a pile in, do mortals, and then you just use your Relentless Discipline points to retreat them out on your next turn, charge back in, more mortals. So, but this will be a good way to get you out without taking mortals, which is very important. Blade of the Nadir, non-companion for the rest of it. When you do an unmodified wound roll of a 6, you inflict an additional D3, which could be good, but you're mostly just going to have to spike. So, not the worst. The spell lore is actually pretty good. So you do get your Empowered Netherite weapons that is still there. So you get crit 2 hits, and if they already have crit 2 hits, it happens on a 5, obviously not for companion weapons, and it goes off on a 5, so it's actually very accessible. Immolating Flame, wholly within 12, goes off on a 6, but basically each time a model dies, you pick one out of combat, and on a 5-up it does a mortal, which can be good, and then Drain Vitality, which subtract 1s from hit rolls and save rolls for the target. The annoying part is within 12, not within 18, so that's and it goes off on a 7, so it's a bigger cast. But that is what it is. Here are the castings for your manifestations. Your manifestations are actually good, which is nice, because at least something came out nice. So we'll just go through some of the highlights here. So Catacross, his combat profile has been nuked. So he can still do damage decently, but he's basically, he doesn't get there until half your units have been destroyed. So you have to be losing, and his stuff has to be destroyed in order for him to go up to 8 attacks on that and 6 attacks on that. So it's really when you're losing that he pops off here. He's 20 wounds, 3-up save, 6-up ward, and like I said, he generates the 10 Relentless Discipline points, so this is how they indicate it on there now. He does have the Aviarch Spymaster, which can be great, because that's any hero phase. His Supreme Lord of the Bonereaper Legions has changed aggressively. Instead of adding a save in there as well, now it's just a fight twice, but you have to pay Relentless Discipline points to the health characteristics. So for example, I used it in the game yesterday, and I wanted to do it on my Morghast Archive. 6 health, so I had to pay 6 RDP, and so it's very expensive. It's why it's on Catacrosses, I guess, but yeah, you're probably only gonna want to do that if you're like going second and you can guarantee that you're gonna have those. You obviously get strike last on the second go, could be good. You have to survive it. A lot of people are saying that Catacross is a must-take. I don't think so. At 500 points, it might just be better to get other things in there, and we'll talk about why here in a second. Archon in the black, 14 health, 3 up, generates only 3. He's got good casting. He's also very expensive. He's got the Curse of Years, which can also potentially kill some things. So not terrible, not great, but either way, I don't have much with Arcane. I don't have him in my collection. He's pretty good for what you get, and he's of course a Wizard 3, which is great. It's just his Relentless Discipline points, not great, and he takes up a lot of space. So Nagash does Nagash things. I'm just gonna ignore Nagash for now. So just to kind of cover some of your stuff. So let's talk about some of your Liege Cavalos. So your Liege Cavalos, they do get the +1 charge on damage on that because it did get taken away from the Death Riders, which we'll cover here in a second. But basically, he can use a fight, and then he can immediately activate another one, and they get +1 to hit. And of course, this unit and invisible friendly Cavalos Death Rider units wholly within 12 can move 12 instead of 10 when they use the Death Rider Wedge ability, which specifically is on their War Scroll, which I'll show you. That gives him a little extra movement, but otherwise, for the most part, pretty standard. He only generates 6 Relentless Discipline points. I do like the War Chariot a little bit better. Again, kind of a similar profile here, actually identical, but still +1 to charge. And he gets Chariot Steeds, so a few more, but it's 5s and 3s, no rend, which is great, / not. But basically, that you pick him in combat and pick up to 2 friendly visible War Chariots, so 2 chariots nearby, wholly within 12, and then they make a pile in, and then roll a d3 on a 2+, they can do mortals, so they can do mortals equal to that. And I believe they have some other stuff as well. But the bigger thing that he also does is he adds a bit of durability. Because if he's in combat, charge his turn, pick up this unit and the 2 War Chariots that you have with him, wholly within 12, and they get a 5-up ward the rest of the turn. So it's actually going to add a good bit of durability to him. He's got 12 health, 3-up save. He's sitting nice. So I'm really glad I ordered the Chariots, for sure. Your Liege Mortec, kind of useful. His biggest thing, the highlight again for him, is that he adds 1 to shoot to the hit rolls for the combat attacks, but he can pick something to shoot or to fight into it, which is fantastic. So for like the Taraxes, they're actually going to get a lot of shots out, which double shooting in your own turn is going to be incredible. I think Taraxes are going to be pretty much an auto include. They can get a lot of shots in depending, but I think the Liege Mortec is absolutely going to see play, especially since he costs Liege Mortec. He costs 120 points. That's a shoo-in if there ever was one. So I think he'll make it into plenty of lists. Xantos. So Xantos did go up in points, but I can kind of see why. He generates 7 Relentless Discipline points, 8 health, 3-up save. But his Dark Lance goes up to damage 3 with Rend 2, and he's 5 3/3s. Giving him crit 2 hits would be awesome. He does have an ability once per turn, or once per battle, sorry. If he charged, pick each enemy unit in combat strike last. That's incredible. He can charge into a group, tag up to multiple things, gives them all strike last as you send in the rest of your army, you start swinging. So I think that's absolutely incredible. And any combat phase, you can pick him and a cavalry unit, which obviously a cavalry unit wholly within 12, which is the Death Riders, and you spend 1 for the Relentless Discipline point, and then they get charge +1. So this is how you get your Death Riders up to that damage +1, is literally just for this. So you have to bring Xantos for it. Can't bring just a Liege Cavalos. It's got to be him. Vorkmordian's got some cool stuff, but again, just highlights, lowlights. You do have good casters still. So very specifically, you can use the Ossifactor again to add an additional Rend to stuff, which is great. I'm always going to include probably a Soul Mason just because he's a 2-cast wizard, which is great. And he has Soul Guide, so wholly within 12 gives him Strike First, which is great. Your spell lore is good. You're going to want to use it. That is important. Bone Shaper, also very important. He's nice and easy. He comes in. He's 140, so again, he's much more expensive, but also 1 CP, half unit, just set it back up. Going to be very important. It's specifically Guard and Taraxes, but those are the ones that you're going to use anyway. So if you build an elite army, then you can trim him out, save yourself that. He does do additional rally rolls, but again, it's just wholly within. So that's only going to be possible if you're not in combat. So you're not getting the Lumineth version. War Chariots. So again, 10 health, 3-up save. So again, great health characteristic. They don't have a +1 damage or anything on the charge, but the big thing again, combat phase, if this unit charged, pick an enemy, inflict D3, and then you can remove the target and set it up wholly within. So you can actually move on the other side of it, although the only downside is it does look like this is a core ability. So if you do this, you're doing this instead of fighting, which means then that you are charging in, potentially doing this, moving them, using your War Chariot Liege, your Liege Cavalos on War Chariot, to do the pile-in mortals. So potentially 2d3 mortals for each one, but the other one's got to be on a 2-up. So I think it's pros and cons, but the big thing being they have a 3-up save, they have 10 health, and they can also do some pinning stuff when they shoot. So it looks like you just pick an enemy unit, and on a 3-up it does a mortal, and they can't do pile-ins. So you can keep some things still, maybe get a bit more use for it. And then, of course, you have the Death Rider Wedge, which pretty much the same. If they charge, pick an enemy unit in combat, pick a friendly Liege Cavalos also, and then inflict D3 mortals on the enemy target. Inflict an additional D3 if the enemy target you picked is a friendly target. So again, the Liege Cavalos, and then the friendly unit, if any, can move 10, and then they move through things. So again, kind of just like moving through things and doing mortals. But again, if you're using Xantos, that's the one that's actually going to give you +1 damage here. And paired with your RDP ability to get a +1 wound, it's 3 attacks, 3s, 3s, potentially crit 2 hits if you can get the spell off, rend 1, damage 2, which could do a lot. They are on a 4-up save, but still 3 health, so they got some beef to them. Mortec Guard. This is a low. Mortec Guard are terrible. You're probably going to have one unit in there, maybe reinforced, just to literally be a body block or a screener, but just something. They nuked these guys into the ground. Like, honestly, like, they are cheap. Your Mortec Guard come in at 110 points, so 220 for a reinforced block, but a 4-up save, 1 health, 4 move, anti-cavalry to get rend. Your profile's changed from 3s, 4s, and this one, subtract 1 from rend characters weapon used that target made a part of attack to a friendly unit. So you pick, your enemy declares an attack that targets a visible Ossiarch Bonereapers unit wholly within this unit's combat range. And so you act as like a weird shield for things, but just, I don't know, man. Like, I might try a body press list with a lot of Mortec because they are cheap, but this was a major loss. I did not care for this at all, which is really depressing, but that's how it is. Try to cohort, gets a scout move, Mortec Triaxes. So just going to give you an idea, they do have a range 18 again. The main reason you're bringing these is for the double shoot with the Liege Mortec, which is very important. And of course, the Balefire Braziers can also stop them from healing and rallying, which did make a huge difference in my practice game against Lumineth, because then they had the ability to rally in combat, and this stopped it. So that was actually fantastic. Really terrible save, but otherwise you're using them for the shooting. I think they're going to show up in the list. Mortis Reapers. So a lot of people hate this profile because they're 3 attacks, 3s, 4s, -1, damage 1, anti-hero rend, which is usually not great. And you can potentially do mortals at the end of the turn, but realistically the biggest thing is this. Any movement phase, if there are no enemy units within 6 and they're within 3 of a terrain feature, they can just poof and move to another terrain feature. Especially in the game that I played, we were kind of fighting over the middle a lot. This would have been a great way for 90 points. They are 90 points for a unit of 5, which is fantastic. And they can just poof, go over to another spot, take an objective, and then by the time your opponent realizes, oh, I need to go get them, any movement phase, poof, they go over to the next spot. So I think Mortis Reapers are absolutely going to be a pick, and I think they're going to be a good pick for a lot of different things. Immortus Guard just shut off like the weapon abilities, which isn't great. Mortis Stalker are the Necropolis Stalkers can do mortals if there's 3 or more models on 5s. You roll for each model in the unit. So you're looking for big horde units. I don't know how often you're going to run into that. 4-up save, 4 health, not bad, versus 3 health or 4 health, 3-up save. I still like the Immortus Guard a little bit more for the better save. Your Archai, your Harbingers, they're still going to be your biggest heavy hitters. Big difference being that these guys can now add a +1 to casting, which is great. So if you're hanging around one of your casters, they can give a boost to that, and they do absolutely still slap. 6 health, 3-up save. The Tom Guan list is still very much going to be alive. You're definitely going to see lists with like a hero to generate, run let's just win points, and then a buttload of these, and you're just going to call it good. That's it. Harvester did get an upgrade. It is different. You don't have to track bone points anymore. It's either full or it's empty. If it's full, then you can, in your hero phase, pick a unit and replace one model, which Morghast Archai, I brought one back. It felt good, but it was definitely like a oh crap moment. Or you can return 3, and then it is empty again. And basically, if it fights, you can replenish it up to full specifically for that. And then, of course, you roll in a dice for each enemy unit that has been destroyed that battle. So if you kill 2 or 3 units, then you're rolling multiple dice, so it is much more likely that you'll be full. Which is interesting, because that also doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be near it. You can just kill something on the flanks, and the Gothazar still rolls. So, very interesting. Is he worth the 200 points? He does hit a lot harder. 6 attacks, 4s, 2s, rend 2, damage 3. Actually a good amount of rend. You pop that off with some crit 2 hits, that thing could potentially spike, and that would be sweet. But I like it. But it's mostly going to be relevant for your Mortek Guard, and your Mortek Guard kind of just flat out suck. So either that or you'll just use it for your Morghast Archai, just bring one back. Just keep trying to bring one back. But they are expensive. Mortek Crawler, same thing, strike last. Still good profile. It's 250 points though, so 2 of them are the cost of Catacross. So you will run out of space really quickly. I don't think if you're taking Catacross, you take a Crawler. It just takes up too much space. Just what doesn't work. Subtract 1 from reward rolls from the Shrieker, from the Soul Stealer Carrion. It actually subtracts 10 from the control scores, which is actually pretty good. Okay, combat profiles, but that's not what you have them for. You have them for their abilities. And then the Nightmare Predator, I actually use this and I love this. He does have some decent damage output. The biggest thing being if he is slain on a 4-up, he can come back with the unit that, like, wholly within 12 of the unit that summoned him. Or it's a 3 if he actually killed some models, which is great. He kept popping up. He was around for the entire game. So I absolutely love the Nightmare Predator. Bone Tide Nexus actually has somewhat of a point. Denies Deep Strike. And that keeps expanding as the battle round goes on. I could barely fit it in the location that I did. But however, it was all the way off to the side. And I thought, great, it's not going to be any use. But it actually did work because it screened out one objective on my side. So my opponent had Lumineth Realm Lords and he had Riverblades. The Riverblades couldn't transport directly onto my objective. It actually kept them off. Even though it was just round 2, it was 12 off. He couldn't do it. So it did serve a purpose, and it does have some combat abilities, which is really funny. And we won't cover any of the Army of Renowns or anything like that, but let's talk about it. How do I feel about the new Bonereapers? After playing a game, they do have the ability to play. They do. They really do. I think it's going to be tricky. It's going to take a second for sure. Again, I try and stay as positive as possible. Now, that being said, I am pretty disappointed with the book. This book feels like it was written a while ago and it just reached publishing. I don't know, maybe they fell behind on production of models or something, but like when I'm looking at these, there's something missing. I don't understand why they're like pushing Bonereapers as like this weird kind of guardians. Like there's something like there's an anti-charge formation. Like, oh yeah, they're just standing on the border and they're like, no, like these are supposed to be Nagash's elite units doing really cool things. The new models do have some good new rules. I'm so glad that we finally have bowmen because these are supposed to be the organized dead, right? Like the Soulblight vampires, like Soulblight Gravelords are just like death rattle skeletons and zombies and all that. Flesh Eater Courts are just rabid cannibals. Night Hunter just like sprinting ghosts. These guys are supposed to be like the armored, like, united, organized dead. And something about this, like, I'm glad we have those missing gaps filled. But Mortek Guard being what they are is just depressing. Like, give me at least a pip of rend in there, and I would feel better about it. But 2 attacks per with 3s, 4s, like giving them and taking like crit 2 hits hurts massively. Just not having that like built in is just depressing. And like subtracting the rend for an attack, it's an attack once per phase. So if you get multiple units, you have to pick one, and they lost their ethereal bit where if they stood still, they got a 4-up save. Like Mortek Guard, I think are going to still show up just once, but they really sucked the life out of them, which sucks because I love the guard. I would love to see more for them. And it's also kind of weird to just like spontaneously ignore the one model that has the two-handed Nadirite blade. Even just throwing in one of those 2 attacks, 3s, 4s, -1, damage 2 or something would have been great. Would have been fantastic. But we don't have that. We have anti-cavalry for reasons. So that part hurts a lot. I think there's a play for the Death Riders, but again, the biggest problem is when I was making lists, I just ran out of space so quickly. A good example, my first list I wrote was Catacross, a Crawler, a Galthazar Harvester, Xantos, 2 5-man Death Riders, which I probably should have made 10, a Reinforced unit of Mortek Guard, and a Reinforced unit of Taraxes. That was 1,970 points. That's it. That's all I could fit in there. I did make another list that did reach 2,000 points. That was Catacross, Archai, Galthazar Harvester, Reinforced unit of Mortek, a Bone Shaper, a Soul Mason, Taraxes, and a Crawler. That one went a little bit better. I felt like I had a little bit more, but it still just is it's just a low amount of models, and I appreciate that on some level, Age of Sigmar is a bit more accessible financially at that point, right? You don't need nearly as much to play a game, but also just it doesn't feel great. I don't know. I would love to be able to field more, and these point increases like Arcane going up 50. Okay, like I understand Catacross going down 20. Honestly, on some level, he should probably be like 450 for his ability. Yeah, he's still 20 wounds on a 3-up, but you have to be losing in order for his like attacks to actually pop off. Cavalos, I probably won't even use. I'll just be using the Chariot for sure and a Legion More attack. I'll be using the new stuff and a couple casters in there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to say the least. I'm really curious to see how things shake out. But overall, if I was going to give this book a rating out of 10, probably give it a 6. Which does not feel good, especially since we got Mortis Reapers, we got the Mortek Taraxes, and we got the Chariots and everything. So I've got 3 Chariots coming. I'm looking forward to running them and trying them out. That's going to be different for sure, but I am excited to see what that looks like. But again, let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments down below. What do you think about the new Ossiarch Bonereapers? Are you a returning OBR player, or are you someone who is looking at starting them? Let me know down in the comments. And of course, if you like this content, feel free to like, share, subscribe. I massively appreciate it. As always, big things coming. I actually am working on a good amount of things right now in the background. It's going to be a busy time. But hopefully, until next time, I hope you go paint something.